In this video, I want to talk about centralization and decentralization and the effect that technology has had and is continuing to have on the process of centralization or decentralization. So in ancient times, prior to agriculture, so prior to about 10,000 to 20,000 years ago, human beings existed in small tribes. And my understanding is it was at most about 150 people, but most frequently it was smaller groups than that. At that point, instead of having a hunter-gatherer lifestyle, we began transitioning gradually towards increasing centralization. And this was possible because we could form communities around fields and farms where we grew our crops, and we developed ways of storing food over periods of time, over the winter and things like that. And that allowed for people to stay in one place, and that permitted the ability to start creating larger communities that were stable and didn't change. And the progression of technology allowed for this to happen, and it also added some benefits. But over time, as time passed, this became more and more centralized, and we started having a centralized authority that was distant from the actual local communities. Basically, over time, it became beneficial to a degree to be centralized, but as centralization increased, the benefit became disproportionately great for the center and the people in power in the center. And you began having things like taxes and tithes, where people's work and property and so forth began to flow towards the center to support a system of centralization. And it became this sort of self-reinforcing cycle. And over time, as technology progressed, we had faster means of travel and means of communication, and that increased the potential for centralization. And then we started to see, again, because of technology, that really only happened because of that centralization that leads all the way back to agriculture, we started to see the pendulum swing in the other direction. And you can really start seeing this, I would say one of the really early, easiest examples to really spot would be something like VCRs in the 1980s. And you'll notice with any of these technological advances that promote decentralization, the centralized power structures tend to fight it. So the recording industry tried to, if not everybody realizes this, but they tried to outlaw VCRs. And the reason was, whether or not they thought of it in these terms, the reason was because of decentralization. What did VCRs allow you to do? They allowed you to record TV shows, or movies for that matter, and watch them on your own schedule instead of a centrally defined schedule by the network. And it allowed people to make copies of these videos and distribute them to other people. So that means instead of having a centralized television station or a movie theater, a movie company, making and producing and recording and distributing everything, suddenly it started becoming possible for individual people to make their own recordings and distribute them. And video cameras and camcorders were another example of this. Now, over time, we started seeing things like the internet, and that's a decentralization of information. And the decentralization of information led to things like YouTube, where anybody could record a video like this one, and technology built into our own computers and even mobile devices, where someone like myself, who does not have a huge company behind him, it's just me, can record and disseminate information to other people, teach people through the use of the internet, whether that be on a website or an app or what have you. And so we've been seeing this very, well, I won't say gradual, but it's really, in historical terms, it's extremely rapid and increasingly rapid decentralization of power structures and money in that as well. So, and the ultimate expression, I think, of the decentralization of money, and really one of the ultimate expressions of decentralization of power structures, is Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technology, because it's fundamentally designed to be decentralized, and because it decentralizes money and the ability to generate money and the ability to make transactions without having to rely on a centralized authority, it really restores, or is one of the key elements to restoring that natural state of decentralization and giving power back to individuals and freedom as a result.